Today marks day 27 of the government shutdown, and still there's no resolution in sight. Senate lawmakers return to Washington this afternoon, but the House remains in recess as Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson has canceled yet another week of work for lawmakers, instead calling for a district work period. Despite this, House Democrats are set to meet this week at the direction of Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Additionally, after a Republican-backed bill to pay federal employees and contractors who continue to work without pay failed to advance last week, Senator Ron Johnson, who sponsored that bill, said he would look to continue talks with Democrats this week in hopes of passing it. Over the weekend, President Trump spoke to reporters, reiterating he'd be willing to meet with Jeffries to negotiate on health care if Democrats would reopen the government first. Meanwhile, over the weekend, the Department of Agriculture posted a new message on its website, blaming Democrats outright for the upcoming suspension of Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, or SNAP, saying assistance will stop beginning November 1st due to the government shutdown. The message begins, quote, Senate Democrats have now voted 12 times to not fund the food stamp program, continuing, quote, bottom line, the well has run dry. It goes on to accuse Democrats of prioritizing, quote, health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures over reopening the government to fund nutrition assistance on this program. And with the speaker himself, we have fact-checked multiple of those points before they are misleading. The Trump administration, though, has previously said it will not use USDA contingency funds to pay for November SNAP benefits. Now, dozens of states have warned they can't continue to provide benefits in November, and at least 2 have already paused delivering them, prompting a surge of demand at food banks. All of these consequences fully hitting Americans as Congress remains at a standstill. Joining us now, MSNBC congressional reporter Michael Schnell. So, Michael, the fact that we're now seeing yet more pressure points, and of course, government agencies continuing to do in this Trump era what they've never done, which is play overt party politics, it likely violates a bunch of ethics rules. To that effect, we've seen no enforcement of that. Sure. And so it sort of leaves us where we've been for the last 4 weeks, heading into a 5th week. And nothing seems to be changing, right? I mean, in your calls over the weekend, have you gotten that sense?
Yeah, this week seems like it's going to be more of the same. Look, the president is overseas in Asia on that high-stakes trip to a number of different countries. That's where his focus is going to be. And it doesn't seem like any of the pressure points that we've spoken so much about, at least for this week, are going to move anything. Look, federal workers missed another paycheck last week. That didn't change anything, and a lot of folks have been looking towards that. On Friday, the military is set to lose another paycheck. Now, President Trump had found a way to pay the troops the first time around. He has a donation for the second paycheck, but it's only a fraction of what federal active duty service members would be owed during this shutdown. I think that next week is when things are really going to get real. We have the SNAP cliff, as you just mentioned. November 1st, USDA saying we will not be able to pay out these benefits by then. We're also going to have open enrollment beginning when millions of Americans are going to be going into the exchange and seeing that their health care rates have skyrocketed, those premiums. So the conversation this entire time, really for Democrats, have been, is the pain of the shutdown right now and the impacts of a shutdown, is that greater than or less than the pain that would be inflicted on Americans by the Obamacare tax credits expiring weeks ago? Up until now, until this point, frankly, Democrats have said that the pain of the health care is worse. Yeah. But when those SNAP benefits begin to dry out, I'm curious if that'll change the calculus.
And even on Friday, when I was talking to Senator Shaheen, we played a bite of that interview earlier in the program, but then also I was talking to Senator Ruben Gallego, and I asked, would you support these SNAP bills that Senator Hawley and other Republicans are starting to put forward? And there was a general consensus of yes, but. And I think it's because Republicans and Democrats alike realize that if they start solving for specific effects of this problem and not solving for the root, that could put us in a whole different world of difficulty in terms of actually reopening the government. I think the other piece of this that I find just so stunning is the way that the House has been out for basically a month. Yeah. Is there any sense that Speaker Johnson is going to bring them back anytime soon? I mean, it's pretty crazy.
No, there's not. And look, we've asked him this on a number of occasions. When is the House coming back? I've heard him tell lawmakers this. I've been told he's told lawmakers this on private House GOP phone calls. The House is on this indefinite 48-hour notice, which essentially means if there's a need for the House to come back, they'll have 2 days to come back, book those flights, and get back to Washington. But it doesn't seem like there's an impetus for that. Look, just last week, Speaker Johnson indicated that if an air traffic controller pay bill were to come across to the House, he wouldn't bring the House back. Now, there have been some bills would not. Now, there have been some bills where he said, you know, we'll address that in due time. If the Senate sends us something, we'll have to address that and take note of that. But we haven't heard, like, forcefully the House is going to come back on this day. The House last took a vote on September 19th. It hasn't been in session since then. I believe that this is the fourth week that votes have been canceled in the House during this government shutdown showdown. So, no, Speaker Johnson and Republicans still think that their posture, by and large, is working as this take it or leave it approach, saying we did our job in passing a government funding bill that does everything, pays air traffic controllers, pays the troops, make sure SNAP benefits can go out. So their posture has been saying, take the bill that we sent you or leave it. But of course, we're starting to hear those grumblings within the conference that they're not so comfortable with this posture.
Well, of course, because especially if the government is shut down and they're home, not at work, visibly not at work, it becomes harder politically for them to defend. I guess ultimately, as we start another week here, do you get the sense that everyone is still just as confident in their positions as they were before? And is it truly the thinking on the Hill that until the president himself gets involved in these negotiations, we're just going to stay in this limbo posture with the government shut down and Americans feeling the hurt?
To your second question, yes. Folks on both sides of the aisle, they are asking for President Trump to get involved. Democrats see the only way that this can end is if President Trump is the one you negotiate with, because they believe he's the one who's calling the shots at the end of the day.
Probably not wrong.
Republicans look at President Trump as this deal maker and what they called him every day, basically, during the big, beautiful bill process, their closer. So both sides of the aisle want him to get involved. Again, he's in Asia this week, so unlikely we'll see him engage in these conversations. To your first question, of are both sides still comfortable? By and large, yes, but we're seeing these cracks on both sides. As I just mentioned, we've both reported a growing number of House Republicans are becoming uncomfortable with the posture of being out of Washington during this standoff. And on the other side of the coin, we saw two more Senate Democrats last week vote for a bill. Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, both Democrats from Georgia, very vulnerable Democrats, I should mention. They voted for that bill that was sponsored by Ron Johnson that would have allowed federal workers who were working during the shutdown to be paid in real time. So again, majorities of both parties still comfortable and confident in their positions, but cracks on both sides certainly emerging.
And for Ossoff and Warnock, the fact that they have Atlanta Airport, massive airport, massive place that a lot of people in their state work, many of those TSA, air traffic controllers, federal workers not being paid right now. All politics remains local. And yet we still find ourselves in this position heading into a fifth week. It's absolutely stunning. Unlike anything I've ever covered
getting close
on
to 35
Capitol Hill.
days.
Yeah, and that's not the kind of history that you want to see Congress make. I will see you on the Hill a little bit later on. My colleague, MSNBC congressional reporter Michael Schnell.